Hi, I'm Melanie Wright and I am money editor at Restless. And I'm here talking to Nishma Waite about how much we should be saving for retirement. And Nishma is a chartered financial planner at Fidelius. Hi, Nishma. Thanks for joining us. So quick starting point. We obviously read about these terrifying sums that we all need to be putting away for retirement. How do people know how much they should be saving into their pension?
Really good question. I think none of us automatically know how much we need to be putting into a pension. It's not a natural thing that you think, right, that's how much I need. It really involves having advice and sitting down with somebody. And when I say that, what I mean is that to get to that magical figure of what you need to be saving, you need to be sitting down and having a talk about how much income you want at retirement, when you want it at retirement, take into account all of the other assets that you have to put towards your retirement funds. What I do with my clients is I do some cash flow forecasting. So when we do that, we embark on this exercise of looking at what their overall assets look like, all of the things that I've just mentioned, when they want to retire, how much income they want at retirement, looking at their tax situation. And by looking at doing a cash flow forecast, you can then see and establish where there's going to be a shortfall of funds. And that shortfall is the answer to how much you're going to need to make up. So that will be, and it'll be so different for everyone. Somebody will want to retire on 100,000 a year. Somebody will want to retire on 30,000 a year. And some people have more assets than others. So that establishing that shortfall through cash flow forecasting, I would say, would be key. And then we work our way back to going, right, well, look at that shortfall. How much do we need to start putting into a pension? And, and that's going to be different for everybody. And it's really not as scary as the original question of, blimey, how am I going to retire? How much money do I want to put in? Because it's not that in isolation. You do need to take into account so many different things, loads of different assets and plans and ages, because, you might want different levels of income based on how old you are. You might spend a bit more earlier, a bit less later, bit more later on. So it's very individual, and it needs sitting down and talking to somebody, ideally through cash flow forecasting, and that will establish that.
Thank you. And it can seem particularly daunting, I guess, for self-employed people because they don't have employer contributions. Are there any ways that they can boost the amount they're putting into their pension?
Absolutely. And I think this is probably more psychological. I think where you're self-employed, you are your own employer, and depending on what your status is, in terms of, when I say status, in terms of, are you self-employed as a sole trader? Do you have a limited company? Makes a difference on how you can contribute into your pension. So, for example, as a limited company, the company can make employer contributions into your pension. It's essentially what you've earned through the company, and that's a taxable expense. So, that potentially reduces your corporation tax. Fantastic. And you just treat it the same as though if you were employed elsewhere. You just get the company to put the money in. So that's nice and simple, cash flow permitting. If you're self-employed as a sole trader, you get tax relief at your highest marginal rate in terms of any pension contributions. So, for example, if you're a 20% taxpayer, basic rate taxpayer, anything you put into the pension, you'll get 20% go in from the government. If you're a high rate taxpayer, 20% again goes in from the government. However, when you do your self-assessment tax return, can claim a further 20%, which will come off your tax bill, which is really lovely. And again, with additional rate as well. Really important that you don't miss that, claiming the extra tax if you're a high rate taxpayer, though, because that's 40% relief, which is fantastic. So something not to be missed.
Brilliant. That's really helpful. Thank you very much, Nishma.
You're welcome.